What's up YouTube, Demi here with a list of starter builds for 3.4 Delve League for Path of Exile, right? So, a couple things I want to say beforehand. A starter build in PoE is basically a plan for endgame. You don't always start with your exact skill you're going to use at endgame. You don't have the access to the uniques, the currency, the level requirement to equip your actual items. So a lot of these builds you might level up as a random other skill until you get to the point where you can equip the items required to play the build, right? Or you have the currency available. That being said, there's been a couple major changes I want to cover really quick. Elemental Hit Avatar of Fire was nerfed. You can still play Ele Hit, but you're going to want to play like random element, elemental equilibrium style. Traps and Mines were nerfed slightly. They're still totally viable, it's irrelevant. Sunder, same thing, nerfed slightly, still totally viable. Kinetic Blast, same thing, slightly nerfed, totally viable otherwise. Things that were buffed, every name lock melee skill like Heavy Strike, Frenzy, Viper Strike, Static Strike was reworked. Like, there's a bunch of new ways to do that, and they're all better now. They didn't touch dual wielding, they didn't touch stat sticks, they didn't touch most totem builds. They did nerf Shimmeron, so you're not going to want to use Shimmeron in an arc build, you're going to just want to use like an actual weapon. What else is there that I want to say real quick? My starter build, I haven't decided yet. This is just a list of builds that I think people can play from myself and a bunch of other community creators. I will link all of these in the description below the video. I'm trying to think, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. Poison is going to be super meta. Chaos Poison attack based builds. We're gonna see a lot of stuff using Vicious Projectiles, a lot of stuff using like Scourge Arrow, Caustic Arrow, Toxic Rain. That style of builds are going to be pretty popular, and then some of these skill trees may not work entirely for the next patch because they did rework the skill tree for Templar and the skill tree for Witch. Path of Building, if you don't have that installed, I'll put a link to that as well if I remember. Path of Building has updated the skill tree already, so this section is totally new. This wheel is totally new. These are new. Like, there's some minor changes, right? Most part, like, this is all the same. 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 The majority of the ascendancies are the same. They touched Guardian. They gave it some more minion stuff, and they touched Pathfinder, gave it more poison stuff. Everybody else is the same. So any build that works in 3.3, 3.2, 3.1, 3.0 will most likely work in 3.4. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Flying Purple People is one of my favorite recommended guides. It's a Slayer focused on Leech, and it works with literally any two-handed melee skill in the game. So I have it's focused around Lacerate, right? But it works with literally everything. So I can use Lacerate, Earthquake, Cyclone, Sunder, Ground Slam, Ice Crash, Tectonic Slam, whatever you want. I got Pace Spins for all of it. You can choose any link that I don't have in here. New Static Strike, for example, would work. I got all the links for every recommended skill. Everything you could ever want to know about the character is in the forum guide, as well as in the video guide, which is somewhere up here. Like, here's an example video of like me doing everything with it. There's Ice Crash against Shaper. What else did I use? I think I just used every skill in this video. It was pretty fun though. It's totally viable with a low budget, and it scales incredibly well in the end game. Even using this, I used the old Ele Hit to kill things with this character, and it's incredibly tanky. I mean, you can push like 9k plus life if you want to wear a Calm Sart. You could push 10k plus life, and you leech like 80% of your life per second with endgame gear. It's pretty insane. One of my first recommendations is Reeve Blade Flurry. It's a very common setup. You can do it as basically any ascendancy. You can do Inquisitor, you can do Scion, you can do Slayer, you can do Juggernaut, Champion, Elementalist. It really doesn't matter that much. The basic thought process is you're going to be playing Blade Flurry Reeve. And this is one of my builds, so I know that this one works. But it's basically just you're playing Blade Flurry Reeve. You have a main hand weapon, whether it's a sword, a claw, or a dagger, doesn't matter. And you have an offhand weapon, which is a Shaper stat stick that's going to have a bunch of physical damage added as extra elemental damage, right? Something like this at endgame. But if you start with just one of these mods, you're doing pretty good. Get 2 mods later, 3 mods, 4 mods, get T1s, get some multi, all that stuff, right? The character is usually pretty easy to play. You just kind of Blade Flurry bosses and they die, right? Okay, next build. This is another build I made last league. This is my Rainbow Blender Elementalist. They didn't touch Blade Vortex, they didn't touch Elementalist, they didn't touch Impulsas, so this is all exactly the same as it was. This build is really good on a budget. I started with this build in last league, Incursion, as my second character, and even on like a less than 1x budget without impulses, I was clearing up into red maps. And then as I dumped more currency into it, I was able to do Shaper on like a 3x budget with a 5-link and a Doriani's Catalyst and a shield. So I didn't even have a stat stick, but you can get 2 of these on a Blade Vortex build. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that build's exactly the same otherwise. Next build I want to recommend is Scorching Ray Mind Over Matter Trickster, which is a very cheap build. This was my league starter in 3.2, if I remember right. And the playstyle is the same. You get an elemental damage, fire damage, spell damage weapon. You shield charge into a pack, and you burn it down. You're pretty tanky. You got decently high life and really high mana. So you're just kind of like running around burning things to death. You drop Orb of Storms to proc Elemental Equilibrium, and then you burn it down with Scorching Ray. Very simple playstyle, very cheap build, endgame viable. It gets very tanky with currency. There's a lot of uniques you can use with it. Again, video guide will be linked in the description. Next build, my Lightning Trap Saboteur, which also works with Arc. This build was nerfed just barely. They reduced the number of traps that you can throw per toss. So instead of 4, we now throw 3, if I remember right. It doesn't matter. They buffed the damage of Lightning Trap to compensate, and this build works with literally any spell in game if you want to use it, right? It's got the pace spins, it's got the gem links, all that stuff is in the forum guide. There's a video link for the video guide as well if you want to watch it be played. Let's see if I can find a... Oh, it's super pixelated. There's a Minotaur kill. It's pretty easy, right? He dies super fast. They nerfed our damage slightly. So, I mean, instead of killing Shaper in like 5 seconds, you'll kill him in like 10. Whatever. Who cares? It's fine. Alright, so this one is Engineering Eternity's build. Molten Strike Juggernaut.
Welcome to the guide.
See if I get some play. It's a very tanky build, very good to scale with currency. You can use it to farm Uber Lab, Uber Elder, it doesn't matter. You start with a very low budget and scale incredibly well in the end game. If you notice, there's a theme on all these builds. Low starting budget, no required uniques, scales well into end game. That's how you decide on a good starter build, right? And this build's designed to be a tank with like decent DPS. It's not horribly tanky. Or sorry, it's not horribly high DPS, but it's enough to kill everything in the game and survive. And it's very player friendly, so that's that one. Next one. This is Kitten Cat Noodle's Arc Trap, Lightning Spire Trap Saboteur, kind of like mine, but this is her build of the week version. She did get a build of the week for this, which is... Did they link this? She has a build guide. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. But yeah, it's very similar playstyle. You run around, you throw arc traps. This one I believe might be using Shimmeron, if I remember right. So Shimmeron was nerfed. You can't use Shimmeron with traps, mines, totems anymore, because if your spells crit, you'll get the degen on yourself. So just use a rare wand instead, and you'll be fine. Next build, this is Lifting Nerd Bros Quad Frostbolt Totems. It's a very cheap starter. Spellcasters are always like super easy to go as a starter because you get damage based off your level of the gem. So you just level up your gem a bit and you'll be fine. But the playstyle is you run around, you drop totems, everything dies, right? Pretty simple. Good solid build, scales very well in the end game. I've noticed Lifting Nerd Bros builds tend to fall off at like higher tier, red tier maps and like Shaper level content. His builds are more for really early on, and you need to dump more currency to them to get them to perform at endgame. But other than that, they're great starter builds. This one is definitely endgame viable. This is Wind's Glacial Cascade Miner Saboteur. It was slightly nerfed in that they nerfed the damage from mining, but they also gave it a quality of life buff by making it so you don't have to stop moving to detonate mines, right? So it's fine. He has a life mind over matter version and a low life variation. It does all content. Doesn't look like he has a YouTube guide. Yeah, he's got a stream link there, but it's a pretty detailed guide. I've seen him play this like every league. It does ridiculous damage, like actually insane damage, and Wins is a cool dude. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ask him. This is another Lifting Nerd Bros build guide. This is for Uber Lab farming. It's a very, very good Uber Lab farmer. You're a champion, you got permanent fortify, you get a good two-handed weapon, slap it on, you're good to go at that point. You more or less just drop a totem, it'll slap things, and this was actually buffed because it now has Volve WARCHIEF, which spawns a totem that'll run around and slap things, and if it's too far away, it'll leap slam on top of it and keep slapping it, which is hilarious. So again, buffed. This one is Octavian's Rainbow Trapper. He made this build in Incursion, and it is ridiculous. It's a blood magic scion, if I remember right. And it has a ridiculous damage ceiling, like actually insane damage ceiling, because you can just scale a bunch of flat added damage and it makes the rainbow traps, the explosive traps, fire traps go incredibly high in the amount of damage that they do. And it was buffed this league. They buffed the base damage of fire trap and they gave it better degen. But look at that, it's just, that's a T16 boss right there, just dead. It's a pretty cool build. Octavian put a lot of time into this. He min-maxed it to a fair extent, but it can be pushed way further than he did. So you could potentially do even more damage than this. I want to see the Shaper kill. Come on, explode. You could do it. There you go. I mean, that's like probably 2 or 3 billion Shaper DPS, and it's not optimized all the way, so pretty sweet. It's built around Malachi's Awakening, which gives you a metric fuckload of flat damage, right? Alright, the next one is Elemental Hit the way it was meant to be played, quote unquote. This can be melee or ranged, and it's all 3 damage types, and you use Elemental Equilibrium. So Elemental Hit is a random hit. It's Fire, Cold, or Lightning, and it can't be the same hit twice in a row. So if you take Elemental Equilibrium with that, you hit with fire, the enemies get negative cold, negative lightning for the next hit, right? So it just alternates. You keep getting that negative 50 res no matter what you're doing. It's a really strong style of build, and I looked over this build a little bit. It looks pretty good. It's a very cheap build, so it's easy to scale. Alright, next one is Flame Blast Totems on Hierophant. This build's been around forever, and it also has a Glacial Cascade variant. But it's a pretty simple build. You stack totems, you stack Flame Blast damage stuff, and then you just run around and drop totems. Everything gets a giant explosion, or multiple, and it just deletes things. I've been seeing this build played since like 2.4, probably, which was like 2 years ago, even before Ascendancy came out. It's still viable. You can use it to level any caster into endgame and then respec out of totems later. Alright, Mind Over Matter, Essence Drain, and Contagion Trickster. I wanted to get some Chaos variants in this video, so I just linked this one in here. It's a pretty basic Mind Over Matter Contagion build. This, I believe, is not changed at all. Nothing changed on Trickster, and nothing changed with this. So yeah, it's a pretty basic build. You just run around, you cast Contagion on a pack of mobs, and then you cast Essence Drain, and everything dies. I'm trying to find a video, but it doesn't look like he has a video. This is Gazzy. There it is. Sorry, I can't read. Give me a playstyle thing. And he uses Blight for boss target, single target boosts, right? It's a pretty solid build, very tanky at endgame, and it does good enough damage to do all content in the game. It might be a bit slow at single target at very endgame, but if you dump a lot of currency into it, you'll be fine. As with most builds. Next one, Glacial Cascade Totem Hierophant, which you've already kind of mentioned. You can put any spell on a totem and do well. And because it's a Glacial Cascade, you can link it to... You can get stat sticks, the physical damage added as X mods on both weapons and get an insane amount of damage. So, that's cool. Next one, Lighty's Bladefall Totem. Same concept as Glacial Cascade. It's a pure physical damage spell. You convert it to Ellie, and then you just delete things with stat sticks, right? It's great. And then this one is Kinetic Blast Barrage. This is a... this Wander, right? Just a Wander, life-based, very fast, very good clear speed, good single target DPS. This build's been around for a long time. It's like the most known Queen of the Forest Wander build. Again, Kinetic Blast was slightly nerfed for AoE clear. I'm sorry, for single target. It's the exact same for AoE clear, if not better. And then you just use Barrage for your single target, so it's a very good build, very well written guide. Alright, this is one of the minion builds I found. This is a Summon Raging Spirits Necromancer that's able to do all content in the game. I mean, it's got good DPS, right? And this was buffed because they've given us way more sources to get minion accuracy on the skill tree. So you're actually able to make your minions have a good chance to hit. There is a minion accuracy node. Oh god, where is it? Here? 20% minion accuracy. And then you have a 30% minion accuracy here. And if you go Guardian, I believe you get even more minion accuracy somewhere. Yeah, it's pretty good, right? Lots of minion accuracy, so you can actually... do better there. If you are using Path of Building, quick shout out. He has a Patreon linked here. He does all of this for free. If you use this, I would I suggest trying to support the dude, right? All of us content creators, myself included, the only reason that we're able to do this is because people who like our content support us monetarily. So if you want to help support this guy, he's got a Patreon link. Same with like any of the other content creators that I'm linking here. They all have some way to support them, whether it's their stream, their Patreon, whatever it might be. And the final build guide here is a Baron Zombies and Skeleton build for a Necromancer, I believe. Which doesn't have a video, but it's just like, you get a bunch of minions, you stack strength, you have a lot of life, and you just delete stuff, and it's great. The Baron is the more strength you have, the more zombies you get. And if you have enough strength, they leech damage to you as life, so it's kind of cool. It's a very, very strong build. And you get a lot of minions, you're pretty tanky. So I think that'll be my starter recommendations. There's of course a billion other builds you could do besides this. This is just what I came up with real quick, based on what we see in the patch notes. There's going to be even more builds coming out over the next couple days. I'll be posting my theory craft soon. I'll probably do it live on stream tomorrow. Actually, I didn't want to do it tonight because I needed to get all the patch notes stuff updated. So my apologies for the really late video post. It's currently almost 1 a.m. and I'm recording this video to post in the morning. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I'm working my ass off to try to get it out to you as fast as possible and have it still be good, right? But if you want to support what I do, my merch store, my Patreon, my stream, all of that stuff are linked in the description below this video. And if you want to know when I'm live on Twitch or what's going on with me, you can join our Discord server or you can follow me on Twitter. Either of those things, again, always linked in the description below the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a good league start. And I'll see you in the next video. That'll be Demi out. Good luck in Delve.